What's up, guys? It's Overheat. This is gonna be my first video. It's going to be about a tier list for Sword and Shield OU July 2020. These are based off their viability, their versatility, and offensive/defensive pressure they bring to the team. For now, they are just OU mons. I will make another video later on about UU and UUBLs that are also viable in the OU tier, because there's a lot of them, and if I did it on this list, there would be a lot of clutter in like the A, B, and C tiers. So I decided not to do it for this. For each mon, I will go over to the sets that it can run. I will only be showing one set, but a lot of the higher tiers have multiple viable sets, which is part of the reason why they're so high tier. So to start it off, there's Magirna. Magirna was a beast in Sword and Shield OU. Right now, it's super crazy. It can run a spec set, a scarf set. It can run a whole bunch of things. It can run even Calm Mind Iron Defense with Sword Power and Draining Kiss, and that flat out wins in some matchups, which is kind of insane. I'll show you one of the sets that it can run. It is Choice Specs, Flare Cannon, Focus Blast, Volt Switch, and Trick. Flare Cannon hits everything in the tier super hard. Choice Specs, Flare Cannon pretty much can OHKO even resisted hits. It 2-hit KOs a Marowak Alola with that. Focus Blast is to hit your Steel types, mainly Ferrothorn and Corviknight, which will come in onto your Magirna. And Volt Switch is just easy momentum that you can get from pretty easily. You just click the button and then you get free momentum. Sorry for being weird about that. Trick is to catch things like Chansey, Mandibuzz, and so you can cripple them pretty hard. Because once you trick away the Eviolite on the Mandibuzz, on the Chansey, you start doing a lot of damage with Flare Cannon, and it can't lock itself into soft boiled. If you trick it onto something like Mandibuzz, then it loses its heavy duty boots, and then it takes Stealth Rock every time it comes in. That's pretty much everything for Magirna. It can run, as I said, Choiced. It can run Iron Defense, Calm Mind, Sword Power, Draining Kiss. It can also run Calm Mind, Shift Gear, Sword Power, Draining Kiss. It's very good against most of the tier. If you look at it, there's pretty much nothing that can take Sword Power and Draining Kiss very well. The best switch into it is probably like Seni Scorch, which is all the way in RU. Let me scroll down to it. Yeah, which that's a super niche pick, which may or may not come in the next video. Okay, so let's get to the next mon. Next mon is Cinderace. As you know, Cinderace was one of the huge mons pre-DLC, and it's still one of the top mons. Its versatility is insane. It can run a 4-attack set like this, or it can run Bulk Up with Pyro Ball, Zen Headbutt, and U-Turn, or you can run High Jump Kick to hit the steals pretty hard. It has Libero, which is basically Protein, just renamed to Libero. Its attack is pretty good, and its speed is really good. It's definitely worth its spot in the tier list. Let's go to the next mon. We have Urshifu, who is one of the tier's best breakers by far. It has 130 attack, 100 HP, 100 defense, and 97 speed, which is a pretty good speed tier. Outspeeds the 95s. It gets outsped by Hydreigon, which kind of sucks, but as a breaker, it doesn't really matter, because that's not what you'll be targeting anyways. It can run Choice Band and Choice Scarf pretty viably. I prefer Choice Band though. It's a great breaker. The only thing that can really switch into Wicked Blow is Galar Weezing and Fizdef Clefable, which are both bonked by Poison Jab. So yeah, this mon's kind of insane by what it does. Close Combat is there to hit anything that Wicked Blow doesn't get hit. The problem with Urshifu is that certain cores like Mandibuzz, Amoonguss, they can pretty reliably play around it, but that's all prediction reliant anyways. So if you predict them, then you'll be doing a lot of work with it. Also, U-Turn is there to potentially pivot out on Clefable or any other switch in, and you don't have to hard predict with Poison Jab. Alright, so then we have Mandibuzz, which you're like, oh, why is there a defensive Pokemon and A+? Well, here's the thing. Mandibuzz is one of the best defoggers right now. It is by far replaced Corviknight. Corviknight has fell off so hard. Spoiler, but it's all the way in C tier because of Magnezone. Magnezone and Urshifu, a lot of the Mons can pressure Corviknight like it wasn't pressured in pre-home and post-home. So yeah, this Mandibuzz can run Brave Bird, Roost, U-Turn, Defog. It can run Toxic over U-Turn. It can run Taunt. It can run a lot of different sets. It can also run specially defensive for things like Aegislash and other Mons, while also checking Mons like Bisharp with +2 Foul Play, Marowak, things like that. It's a very reliable defogger, and you get to have the ability of Heavy Duty Boots, which gives you all immunity to all hazards, which pretty much eliminates the Stealth Rock weakness, even though it can't be knocked off by Clefable, which runs knockoff on pretty much every set that's not Wish. Okay, next Mon we have Toxapex. You really could have seen that coming. It's Toxapex. That's what it does. It does the things it always has. It just sits there. It clicks Toxic. It clicks Haze. It clicks Scald, and it can also run especially defensive sets, so it can check things like Magearna and Volcarona. Volcarona it checks pretty well with a especially defensive set, but physically defensive gets overwhelmed by Psychic, which is a pretty much mandatory move on Volcarona, except if you're bulky Substitute, which runs Fiery Dance. But for teams like that, you would have support to kill the Toxapex. Toxapex it's always been good, and it always will be good. The virtues that they gave to this Mon are crazy. It's low HP, but it makes it up with its defenses and Regenerator. So it's pretty insane. Next Mon we have Volcarona, which has always been OU. It's been a really good OU Mon, and now it gets Heavy Duty Boots. So that's pretty much its entire counterplay gone. With one item, it completely counterplays. It does not care about Stealth Rock, it does not care about T-Spike, it does not care about Spikes. It can come in freely on it, and then it can Quiver Dance, Fire Blast, Bug Buzz, and Psychic. Pretty much everything in the tier for super effective or for neutral damage. That's why it's a great pick on things like Hyper Offense, and certain balanced teams can fit it. So yeah, that's pretty much what Volcarona does. It can also be run on stall teams as a late game cleaner. It can be ran with a defog set, with Struggle Bug and Flamethrower with Roost. I have seen that before. It's a pretty good set, but I think it's outclassed mainly by the standard Quiver Dance. Okay, next we have Dragapult, which has always been a good Mon. It specifically got better this patch because of how it matches up with certain Mons. So now we have a weird set if you haven't played in a while. It is Will-O-Wisp, Dragon Dart, Steel Wing, and U-Turn with Dragon Fang. This is something you really wouldn't have seen pre-DLC, but with Dragon Darts and Dragon Fang with Adamant Nature, you 2-hit KO a lot of the Mons in the tier, and you also 2-hit KO Chansey, which is a big deal whenever you are otherwise walled by it. If you're running a special set for Haze, not for Haze, Choice Specs, or Spell Tag with Hex, and something like that. They run Steel Wing for things like Clefable, try to hit it on the switch in. It tries to hit Galar Weezing, which is getting pretty popular because of the Urshifu and how broken it is. It's so good. Yeah, this set, it mainly comes in on things like Azu and actually Will-O-Wisp swims before they can get their Belly Drum up, which pretty much cripples them, and they can't get a sweep off if their attack is halved. Dragon Dart hits what it hits, Steel Wing hits what it hits. U-Turn is there to get momentum and not potentially risk them going into Clefable. It pretty much can just U-Turn on anything. really only has to fear priority from like Choice Band Rillaboom or Choice Band Weavile, which can click Ice Shard and Grassy Glide, which respectively do damage after your Dragapult is shipped. I don't think either of them kill from full, but they both do a lot of damage, so you really don't want to stay in on those. Then we have Clefable, one of the best mons in pre-home and post-home. Now it's started to run a physically defensive set because of Urshifu. It runs Stealth Rock, Moonblast, Soft Boiled knockoff. It looks like a lot like the utility Clef that was ran beforehand. Of course, Spadef is still viable. It can be ran with a 252, 160 defense, and the rest put into specially defensive with a calm nature. It could be used like that to check Urshifu, because with 160 defense investment, you do not get 2 KO'd by close combat, which is a very nice tech to have if you don't want to run fully defensive Clefable. Stealth Rock is there because it's one of the best Stealth Rock setters in the tier. Moonblast hits dragons, of course, Urshifu, Mandibuzz, which is a great thing to have because Mandibuzz is the premier defogger right now. You also have Knockoff to cripple things like Rotom Heat that switches in. It can also cripple Dragapult, knock off its item like Heavy Duty Boots or Leftovers or Spell Tag. It can come in and punish mons that try to come in on it, like Pex, Rotom Heat, Excadrill, Rillaboom, Magearna. Magearna's a big one because you can knock off the Choice Specs. Okay, next mon we have Rotom Heat, which has been always a good mon. It was good pre-home, it's good post-home, and it's even good now. Right now it starts to run a Nasty Plot set with Overheat, Discharge, and Pain Split. It runs 240 speed, 20 special attack, and 248 HP. 248 HP is so if it gets knocked off, it can take 5 Stealth Rock switch-ins from full, which is pretty cool tech if you didn't know how to do that beforehand. And, okay, it can also run Toxic instead of Pain Split, or Toxic instead of Nasty Plot. It has a lot of versatility on Rotom, and it provides a lot of offensive and defensive pressure towards a team. And that's one of the reasons why it's listed so high in the tier list. It has really good defensive typing in Electric Fire, which means it's not weak to anything. Well, it's weak to one thing. It's not weak to anything 4X, despite having Electric Fire, because it has Levitate. A really useful ability unless you're facing like Mode Breaker Excadrill, which just ignores that and clicks EQ and you die. But you would never stand on that anyways. It's only weak to water, which it pretty much only fears water from Urshifu S and Azu and maybe Toxapex, but Toxapex only does around 20% with Scald. 20 to 30%. Slowbro does chunk it with Scald, but you can pretty much set up on its face because Slowbro will not want to stay in on you because it would take excessive chip and then it would pretty much die later on whenever it tries to check a mon like Excadrill. And then for the next mon we have Excadrill, which is rated at the bottom of A+. That doesn't mean it's a bad mon at all. That just means that it is the least viable in terms of versatility as every other mon in the list. It was going to be A, but after some reconsiderations, I moved it to A+, because of how versatile it can run. It runs things like offensive Stealth Rock removal. It runs Sand. It runs defensive. It runs specially defensive for Magearna, which is a great check. This is a great check to it, as it can come in on Volt Switch for free and Fleur Cannon. Fleur Cannon, it comes in pretty reliably. You take a lot of chip, but you can force it out with Earthquake or set up your rocks or Rapid Spin whenever it gets forced out eventually. Next, we have the A tier, which we start with Rillaboom. Rillaboom is an amazing mon. It recently got Grassy Surge, which has completely changed how it plays. It also got a cool move in Grassy Glide, which is 70 base power with +1 priority in grassy terrain. So right off the bat, you have a 91 base power priority move in grassy terrain. That's insane. You also have a good move pool. It has Darkest Lariat, Body Press, Brick Break, Drain Punch, stuff like this. Typically, it runs a set with Woodhammer, U-Turn, Grassy Glide, and Knockoff, because this is the most. It hits the most with these 4 moves. It can also be run Drain Punch instead of Woodhammer to hit the steals harder, or run a high horsepower to hit the steals. It can have a couple sets. It can run Leftovers, it can run Life Orb, it can run Choice Scarf, and it can run Choice Band. Personally, I like Choice Band the most because of the raw damage output it has really quickly. You don't have to waste a turn setting up and potentially getting toxic or paralyzed by like a Ferrothorn, and you can just right off the bat and just fucking click moves. Next mon, we have Hydreigon, which is always been a good mon. It recently got Nasty Plot this generation, which has made it one of the best wall breakers in the tier. It has a base 125 special attack that it's going +2 at. 349 times 2, that's 698. That's a lot of special attack. Nasty Plot, Draco, Flash Cannon, Flamethrower, that hits everything in the tier for either super effective damage or neutral damage. Draco Meteor at +2, 2 KO's Chansey. This is the level of power this mon has. It is insane how much damage output it has. It can also run viably a Choice Scarf set, which can take some mons on surprise, like Cinderace, Urshifu, Dragapult. You can take them off on surprise, and you can bluff that you're Nasty Plot the whole game, but then you can just go for a Draco Meteor and knock them out, and then potentially you can win the game. Next mon, we have Zeraora, which has been a great mon since it came out. It has dropped off a lot in terms of viability due to how many defensive grasses we got returning. We have Rillaboom, we have Amoonguss, and we have Tangrowth, which pretty much all hard stop it. It kind of sucks for him, but he's still pretty viable. It can run Bulk Up like it did beforehand. It can run sub knockoff like Toxic and Volt Switch. That's also a set that's ran. I think I saw that in a W-Cop game. It's fastest mon in the tier. It outspeeds even Dragapult, 143 speed. You can run an Adamant set on it. I wouldn't suggest it, but you really want to be outspeeding Dragapult, which is the main allure of running this on a team, is the amazing speed control it brings with its base 143 speed. Next up, we have Azumarill, who was a returning Pokemon from the DLC. Azumarill can viably run a Billy Drum set with Billy Drum, Play Rough, Aqua Jet, Knockoff. Knockoff hits things like Tangrowth, Amoonguss, and Ferrothorn, and also Toxapex, which at +6, it also kills all of them. All of them drop to it. It runs Aqua Jet to hit the mons that outspeed it, because it's pretty slow at base 50. Play Rough is to hit anything neutrally before you Belly Drum, or you can hit things after you Belly Drum for a lot of damage that you outspeed with max speed investment. Next mon, we have Slowbro, which is granted with a great move in Teleport. Teleport is game-changing. It also gets heavy-duty boots, so it doesn't have to worry about Stealth Rock, Spikes, or T-Spikes. It doesn't have to deal with any of that. A lot of them choose to run heavy-duty boots just for that reason. It can come in on a lot of mons. It's the premier physically defensive wall of the tier, besides Toxapex. They check the same. There's a little bit of overlap in what they check, but Slowbro specifically checks Cinderace, which is a big deal whenever it comes to checking a mon, because that mon is really good, as stated before. It's the second highest mon in the tier. It runs Scald, Slack Off, Teleport, and Thunderwave. It can also run things like Flamethrower and Future Sight as the last slot. Flamethrower is to hit like Ferrothorn off guard or hit other steel types off guard. You can run Future Sight, which in 2 turns you will hit with a base 130, if I remember correctly, move. We can look it up. Future Sight, 120. It hits 3 turns later with a... well, not 3 turns later. 2 turns later on the 3rd turn with a base 120 psychic attack, which is pretty good because you can position yourself to be in a good position So you will have to force them to go into a specially defensive wall or go into Mandibuzz on the third turn, or otherwise they will potentially get really chipped on something like Rillaboom, which otherwise comes in on Slowbro for free. Next mon, we have Amoonguss. Amoonguss is a great mon. The set I have here is a defensive set with a little bit of special defensive investment. It runs Spore, Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, Toxic, or it can run Clear Smog to get rid of boosts with like Azumarill. Azumarill will try to set up on you, but you can either Spore, you can Sludge Bomb, you can Toxic, or you can just Clear Smog and completely get rid of its stat boosts. It's pretty funny whenever that happens, and if you can pull it off, it feels pretty good. It's a great mon. It's a great pivot. It also can run Rocky Helmet, so it can punish things like Urshifu Close Combat or Dragapult U-turns. It's a I put it pretty high in the list. Honestly, it could be lower, but I honestly feel like it deserves the spot where it's at. Next, we have Chansey. You know what Chansey does. It sits there. It sits on the especially defensive walls. It just clicks Seismic Toss, Soft Boiled, Stealth Rock, Toxic, Successor Aromatherapy. See, the thing about that Chansey is that it's super matchup fishy. Certain matchups, it completely be outclassed and no, it's not outclassed. It can be pretty much overwhelmed by like Volt Turn, Knockoff, Trick, things like that can pretty much overwhelm Chansey and force you to play a lot more offensively, which is not really good because you're running a Chansey. You don't want to be playing offensively. Chansey really fits onto bulky offense, semi-stall, and full-out stall. You can see it paired with Mew a lot on stall because Mew can transform and take out threats that would try to get rid of Chansey otherwise. Next we have Alakazam, which is a great wall breaker in the tier. It recently got Nasty Plot, so now it can right off the bat it can get to +2 and then start doing damage to things. The set we have here is Stall Breaker Zam. It beats every mon in stall except for specially defensive Clefable, which is starting to be ran because of what this mon does. You have Nasty Plot to boost your special attack, Psychic to hit everything with Stab, and then you have Focus Blast for Dark types and Chansey. Recover is there so you can actually beat Chansey 1v1 with Seismic Toss. You can also beat Toxapex and things like that, but with Pex you want to be careful because it can try to knock off your Life Orb, which will greatly decrease your damage output. With Life Orb and Magic Guard, you basically get a free 1.3 boost without any of the drawbacks of using Life Orb. It's really good. You can also run things like Focus Sash or Trick, Choice Scarf on Alakazam. I've seen Scarf Alakazam, which is not horrible. It's pretty good speed control. It has base 120 speed, 135 special attack. It's really weak, like physically defensive, but that's not what its job. Its job is to be a offensive wall breaker, and it can actually switch into special moves pretty well with its base 95 SpDef. Next mon, we have Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn doesn't have much to say about it. It's a good hazard setter. It's been good since Gen 5. It's been OU. It does spikes, body press, knockoff, leech seed. Triple Berry is there for things like Urshifu, other fighting types that will try to take advantage of you, and you can lure it in with that and then kill it with a body press afterwards. Knockoff is there to hit things like Dragapult, Clefable, punish all the mons that try to come in on you. Leech is to just get your recovery back up. You can either run Stealth Rock or Spikes on this, in this last slot. Leech can be, Knockoff can be replaced with like T-Wave or Gyro Ball or something else. You can run a lot of different moves on Ferrothorn. It can viably run a couple different sets. Next on the list we have Hippowdon, which is a pretty good physical wall. It has really good defense. It is pretty decent special defense, and it has a great move of recovery and slack off. It also gets access to Stealth Rock, Sandstream, and its item that it usually runs is Rocky Helmet or Leftovers. It can also be ran with a Smooth Rock, Smooth Rock allows Sandstream to last 8 turns instead of 5, which allows your Excadrill or another Sand Sweeper to take advantage of more Mons in less time. It runs Whirlwind, so it can phase out certain Mons that try to set up on you. You can try to haze out Magearna that will try to set up on you, because it can't OHKO you from full unless it's running something like Ice Beam, which is not really ran. You can see it ran on Magearna, because Magearna can pretty much run anything, but it's not that common. Next, we have another physically defensive wall in Kommo-o. Kommo-o is really good this gen. It recently got Body Press this gen, which is a really good move. They gave it to a lot of Mons, and based off its 125 natural defense, it hits 393, so that's a pretty hard Body Press that it bases off of. It also has Stealth Rock, and it rocks either Earthquake and Toxic, or Earthquake or Taunt. It can also run Detail, but Dragon Tail isn't used that much anymore. I haven't seen it since the DLC dropped. Kommo-o can also run a sub-Salak set with Belly Drum, Drain Punch, Earthquake. It can be ran as that, but I think that only really fits on Hyper Offense as a lure. And then we have Hawlucha. Hawlucha is a great Mon. It is a Unburden abuser. This set is primarily ran with Rillaboom, but you can try to run it with Electric Seed with Pincurchin on a sort of gimmick team. It runs Swords Dance, Acrobatics, Close Combat, and Substitute, which are all pretty viable Mons, pretty viable moves to run them on. It can also run Roost, Taunt, or Drain Punch as your last move on Hawlucha. It can also run a Power Herb Sky Attack set, which has its viability on teams that aren't using a terrain setter, but this is vastly superior to any other Hawlucha currently. Alright, let's go on to the next set. Next, we have Pelipper, which is the Drizzlemon that is primarily used. It's a lot better to Politoed because of its dual stabs and the fact that it gets Roost. Roost is a huge thing whenever you are the rain setter, because you want to have that reliable recovery so you can have your rain as long as possible. Weather Ball, Hurricane, U-Turn, and Surf is run on this set. I am running a Choice Specs Pelipper, which really doesn't have that many switch-ins. And Pelipper does not have that bad special attack. Base 95, that's the same as Clefable. So, Choice Specs Pelipper definitely catches people off guard, and you have a pretty good win con on rain teams, which is Pelipper. Primarily, though, it will run a defensive about 248 HP, 252 defense, 8 SPDF set with Damp Rock, so you get the 8 rain turns instead of the 5. Next, we have the B tier, which only has 6 Mons, but we can go over them. There is Kingdra, who is the premier rain abuser of the tier. We have Hydro Pump, Draco Meteor, Hurricane, and Surf, which are all great moves for it to use as coverage. It no longer has to use Ice Beam, which is great for it because Hurricane is base 110 and Ice Beam is only base 90. And you're hitting the grass types like Amoonguss and Rillaboom for hard if you can predict it. Predict it well. Draco Meteor is there as your stab. You really don't want to use something like Dragon Pulse because it doesn't really hit hard. And once you click Draco Meteor with Choice Specs, you can just click it again and it will kill a lot of Mons. It can also be ran viably with a Life Orb if you want to be able to change up your moves. This set is Choice Specs because with this you'll just click Surf or Hydro Pump in the rain and just 2KO most things. You'll switch up these two if you need to hit with coverage. Next one we have is Tangrowth. Tangrowth is a physically defensive and specially defensive wall. This set is Rocky Helmet with Regenerator. Its moves are Giga Drain, Knockoff, Focus Blast, and Sleep Powder. It can also be ran with Assault Vest, but Assault Vest is not that good if you ask me, because you can run other mons with Assault Vest like Amoonguss, which does its job twice as better with Assault Vest. It's a very bulky mon, 100 HP, 125 defense, and it has really good offenses. 100 attack, 110 special attack. Its special defense and its speed are lacking, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't need to use either of those. With Assault Vest, it makes up with its special defense by running nearly a fully specially defensive set, but that will allow you to sponge up some special hits and be able to play your role as a specially defensive wall. Tangrowth likes to come in on mons that it resists. It can also wall mons like Dragapult and Hawlucha. Hawlucha pre-SD, you can get a Sleep Powder on it and then dispose of it accordingly. Of course, it's so low on the list as compared to other mons because of how pressured it is due to its special defense, and it's pure grass typing. Pure grass typing really isn't that good in the meta. Rillaboom just makes up with it for being an offensive one, not a defensive one. As you can see, a lot of mons offensively pressure Tangrowth, which is a big issue and why I ranked it so lowly. Next, we have Mew. Mew can run a bunch of sets. If I try to list all the sets out that Mew has, this would be a 2-hour long video. The set that I'm currently featuring is a Hyper Offense lead set. Hyper Offense Mew runs a red card, so if you're hit, it knocks out the other mon and forces them to switch out. You run Stealth Rock, Spikes, Taunt, and Explosion. It gets Spikes this generation, so now it can run dual hazards. Taunt is to taunt other Mew and other Hyper Offense leads. Or Defoggers. You can taunt Defoggers like Mandibuzz or Corviknight so they don't defog your rocks. And Explosion is there to prevent a defog from something like Corviknight or Mandibuzz. Explosion also blocks the rapid spin because they can't spin on you. Next we have Urshifu Rapid Strike, which you're probably wondering why I ranked it so low. The problem is that Urshifu Rapid Strike, its dual stabs aren't that good. Fighting in water isn't what it used to be. We have things now like Dragapult, Toxapex, Slowbro, Amoonguss. We have so many mons that check it now. Even Como checks Urshifu Rapid Strike really well. It's not like it was in Gen 6 where things like Keldeo was destroying Slowbro, which is the only check to it. It's not like that anymore, and that's the problem with the water fighting typing. This set is Choice Scarf, which is really good against Hyper Offense. Hyper Offense hates Urshifu Rapid Strike. It counters a lot of the mons that they run. You run Surging Strikes, Close Combat. You turn Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet is good for the priority if you're getting outsped by something like Volcarona. And with 130 attack, you're doing a lot of chip with Aqua Jet before you sack your Urshifu. Let me scroll down to the next mon. Next mon, we have an amazing Stall Breaker and an amazing Magearna check in Marowak Galoola. It has a specific item. It has Thick Club, which doubles its attack. It does not actually double it to 160. It doubles the base attack, which means it's a lot better. It doubles the number rather than the base, is what I meant to say. My bad. It usually chooses to opt a Swords Dance set, or it can run Stealth Rock 3 moves. It got a new move this gen in Poltergeist. Poltergeist is a new move that was released in the DLC. It's a base 110 physical ghost move with 90% accuracy. It fails if the target has no held item. Basically, this is an amazing stab. It allows you to pretty much 2-hit KO literally everything with your dual stabs. It is insane how much damage output this mon has. It is an amazing stall breaker, and it's an amazing wall breaker. The problem with it is that it's very slow, and it can be pretty frail with 60 HP and 80 special defense. physically it can take a hit from full, but it really doesn't want to because it's a wall breaker and it's a stall breaker. You don't want to get a lot of chip early on because then late game their walls will just stall you out and then you can't win. Next off, we have Magnazone, who is a returning member to OU. This gen, he did not get HP Fire because that move was cut, so now it can't check a lot of the mons that it used to. It usually tries to run a choice spec set with Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Flash Cannon, and last move can be either Body Press or Discharge, or it can be Rising Voltage if you want to use it on an Electric Terrain team. It usually runs Body Press, so it can trap things like Ferrothorn, or can trap Bisharp and dispose of them. Alright, that's it for the B tier, and now we're going to go to the C tier. The C tier are mons that have dropped off a lot since pre-home and post-home. First, we have Bisharp. Bisharp it runs the same set. You'll never see a different set than this. Bisharp will always run Black Glasses or Life Orb, Swords Dance, Knockoff, Iron Head, Sucker Punch. This is a classic set. It's been ran since Gen 5. Knockoff hits for 96.5 damage. You have Iron Head for the fairy types, and then you have Sucker Punch for your priority at +2. This set does not actually have a nature. That was my bad. It usually opts to run Adamant, but it can run Jolly on certain teams. Next mon is Corviknight. You're probably surprised why Corviknight is so low. The problem with Corviknight is a lot of the new mons pressure it, especially Volcarona. Volcarona and Magnazone are huge deterrents to it, because beforehand, Libero Cinderace getting Libero was a huge deterrent to using Corviknight. That was when the shift of Corviknight being S tier started to happen and started to drop in terms of viability. Now it runs a set like this. It has to run Brave Bird on every set, because otherwise you'll be Volk setup fodder, and then you pretty much get swept by a Volk late game, which is not good. You don't want that to happen, and that's just the last thing that you want to happen to you. It can run a bunch of sets. It can run fully physically defensive. It can run fully specially defensive. This set is running 104 defense and 152 special defense. I'm not sure what the benchmark is. I got this from a paste. Shoutouts to AC. He made a huge paste with like 128 sets. I will leave it in the description if you want to use it. It's a very helpful resource, and I really think that it's useful for a lot of people. Next off, we have Togekiss. Togekiss as the last mon in C tier. Togekiss has fell off really hard, and if you look at the list, look at how many mons offensively pressure it. Magearna, Cinderace, Urshifu, Volcarona, Dragapult, Rotom, Excadrill. A lot of these mons just completely punish Togekiss. While it's effective as a stall breaker, it doesn't make up for the fact that it really struggles in the meta currently. It's hard to justify using on the team, and it's really hard to fit on a team. Its typing leads it to be weak to rocks, but you really can't run heavy duty boots on this because you need the leftovers so you can stall break. It can also reliably run a Choice Scarf set, but I really believe that that's vastly inferior to Nesuply Air Slash Substitute Flamethrower, which is still viable, but I don't think it's very good. And last mon I might get some crap for, but this is Scizor tier. Scizor is horrible in OU. There's no reason why it's OU. It's so bad. It can't do anything. This is a specially defensive set. It's just there to click U-turn and Bullet Punch and knock off for like Pex or something. It's not a good mon. I don't suggest using it at all. And yeah, I think that's pretty much every mon in the tier. I apologize for tripping on my words, but this has been my first video. So like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, dislike it. Or something. It's fine. Alright, I'll see you next time.